welcome to a brand new episode of MICAST, MICA's official podcast. This is your host Pallavi.
And this is your host, Kasturi. This season is all about the Media Masters, where we take a deep dive into the ever evolving world of media and entertainment, seeking out stories, insights, and behind the scenes processes for you to hear. Today, we'll be diving into the world of OTT.
We're excited to have with us today Mr. Rahul Sarangi, Vice President and Head of Short Form and New Content Initiatives at Disney+Hotstar. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir.
Thank you, Pallavi. Thank you, Kasturi.
So, starting right with the questions. With over 2 decades of experience across digital and linear content, as well as production and content operations, how has your personal relationship with content creation evolved?
Well, it's been 2 decades. Yeah, it's been too long. Uh, I would say it's evolved with time. And I'll tell you what I mean by that, right? When earlier part of my career, when I started my career many, many years ago, I used to be an A/B roll editor. I don't know if you know what an A/B roll editing is. So today you have a computer to edit on. Earlier we used to put tape A and tape B, and we used to cut frame to frame, right? So those were the days I came from. So that um, I came from under the rock, so to speak. Uh, no, but what has happened from then on is, the content process has changed in this thing. So basically started with A/B roll, then went to pneumatic, then went to linear, then digital, and so on and so forth. But what has always remained same, right? I mean, if you look at examples, the storytelling pattern never changes. Humans actually need stories. That's right. That's the base of humanity, so to speak. I mean, from time immemorial, when there were plays or nautanki, as it was called back in the day, it was nautanki, then became play, which is a fancier name, a theatrics, or whatever you want to call it. It was always stories, right? And the medium, the format changes, the medium changes, but the base of everything remains same, which is storytelling. If your storytelling is is up to scratch, it'll work. So let me give you an example, which you'll understand better probably from a audience standpoint. So if you take Game of Thrones as an example, right? I mean, the reason I'm taking Game of Thrones because everybody is most of people of your people who are viewing this would know what Game of Thrones is. Game of Thrones is actually a series, right? It's not a TV series. It's a digital HBO Max series, right? If that worked on digital, if you put that on telly, it'll work. If you make it into a film, like put them all together, edit it out again, and like a 2 hour piece or a five, like a trilogy or whatever, it'll still work. So what I'm trying to say is, one is theater, one is TV, one is digital. All will remain, right? But the storytelling narrative will never change. The narrative will get evolved with times in terms of the storytelling will change, but storytelling will remain on per se. So yeah, it's been a good fun journey.
It's really interesting how you mentioned you used to work with like actual analog film, and we've kind of only ever known digital. But the thing that stayed consistent is storytelling, which
Yeah.
something we as Micans really pride ourselves on. And there's
Yeah.
something I want to talk to you about because storytelling does change based on your audience. It's not always that you're telling a story with an audience's mind. Sometimes you just have a story to tell. But when it comes to content creation, especially in business, you do think of the audience you're writing for. And so you've worked in the launch team for Colors TV, which is like traditional TV format, right? General entertainment channel. And then you also actually worked at the Viral Fever as global head for their content and business development, which was very internet led, very youth focused. So, what were some key differences you found in catering to the different content tastes? Because these are two very different audiences.
So uh, so TV, so to speak, right? Now, how you define audiences, right? A lot of people as commissioners or creators, earlier now they're called creators, earlier we were called commissioners. It's the same thing, right? Um, so earlier we believed कि what we make is the audience wants to watch. That's the first wrong objective. Never go after that. कि जो हम बनाते हैं वो लोग देखते हैं ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. Otherwise everything would have been a hit otherwise, right? That's the truth. So we take audience as fools, but we should not. They are smarter than we are. That's why they are watching. That's the truth. Point number one. Point number two. At colors or at TV, so to speak, what happens is your set is very small. Your dabbas, your TRP dabbas are I think what with Bark is only about 30,000 or 50,000. And you're extrapolating that into the entire country, right? You're trying to find trends based on that. So if you look at evolvement of TV, I'll just step back a little to give you a sense of where I'm coming from. When Doordarshan was there, you had Nukkad, you had those kind of series. They did well. Did not, they did well. And Ekta came and said, every woman who gets up in the morning has to be properly dressed, which is not humanly possible. As you guys know, your mothers, yourselves, even male, female, you can't be make up in the morning when you get up in the morning. So what she did as a strategy, and you have to understand it, and you go back and do a little research, you'll understand. During the time when she's launched a SARS Bahu firepower, so to speak, uh, what did she do? She put 8 to 10 across all channels with the same shows. So audience had no option. So if you're switching from Sony to Star to Z, there were three networks then, you had the same shows. So a similar show, not same shows, similar shows. So audience had, and then everybody started believing this is the way to go, right? So she defined the television route, so to speak, to give her credit for that, right? At Colors, if you notice the first set of series of serials, so to speak, the daily soaps as we call it, none of them were produced by any big producers. They were, so what made Colors had two strategies. One to go after um, big unscripted, right? So what is the first big unscripted? Khatro ke Khiladi, Fear Factor. Fear Factor in this country nobody wanted to touch. It is a niche show. It was meant for the AXNs of the world. What made Colors was Fear Factor, and obviously Big Boss, right? Which is called Big Brother, now called Big Boss, whatever. And the third thing, just for everybody anecdote, Balika Vadhu was not supposed to be a big show. Balika Vadhu was produced by one small producer. It was key, and the license took long for Color, so we went all over countryside to do license. You need license to broadcast your air, right? To air your broadcast. So what happened there is we were not getting the license on time. It's a whole government process and so on and so forth. So we had so much time. The shows were made. We took it for research, right? To every nook and corner of the country. Everybody says बालिका वधू से ज्यादा regressive so दुनिया में नहीं है. So ये मनी चलेगा नहीं. Okay. We were starting our big announcement. If you remember back in the day, it was a Mytho show. I think it was on Shiva, if I'm not wrong. It was a Mytho show. Tanked. Week one, it tanked. So we didn't have another show. So Balika Vadhu, isko dal ke dekhte hain. That became number one slot in the country. Second slot after 7:30 slot, it became number one. 8 o'clock slot didn't work. Balika Vadhu was moved there. It became number one there. 9 o'clock. So Balika Vadhu has been on all slots. So the what I'm saying is हर शो की एक जर्नी है, हर शो की एक डेस्टिनी होती है. So when you say you're making for an audience, you have a sense, but you can't put a pinpoint and say I'm making this for you. It'll work for sure. There's nobody in the world who can do it. But on the side of digital on TVF, right? So if you look at TVF, what is TVF story? It is about the story of Bharat. If you see Gullak, if you see Tripling, you will see you and me. It's a story of you and me, right? And the narrative styles of both are very different. I'll tell you what I mean by that. In TV, you or in films, you keep the best for the last. Just called climax, what you say, you keep the best for the last. In digital, it doesn't work. In digital, the best has to be on top and then has to keep getting better because the audience has a cursor. He can move it or shut it or go to next video. So the writing style is very different. So primarily the writing style and relatability style is very, very good. So TVF came with the whole logic of stories from Bharat and real life people like series like Gullak, Kota Factory. Everybody goes through that journey and you relate to it. So that's, and obviously it's made for a younger audience. This is made for a little more family viewing audience. Because logically TV is India still has a single household TV logic, right? So there's one TV in one household in most of India, and most of them dabba TV as we call them, not the flat screen TV as you and I have at home, right? So most of India has that. So TV is a family viewing. OTT or digital is more independent viewing, so you can watch it on your phone or your mobile or your tab or wherever the hell you want to watch it. So it is actually catering to a different cohort or segment or whichever way you want to call it. So TV is a different writing style and digital is a very different writing style. But if you look at TV now also, it's also getting more realistic writing, realistic storytelling, but there'll still be dinning for a drama because that's what the audience like. And you know why it is done like that? There's a very interesting insight for your audience to know. When 8 o'clock the Saas Bahu serial comes, right? The woman, the housewife, is cooking at the same time. So that's why it's more audio than video. The story doesn't move that fast because she keeps track of the story. So if she's making roti, she can hear it, and if something happens, she comes in. So she never loses track of the story. That's the reason. There's a science behind it. It's not random.
So it was absolutely fascinating. Like I was so engrossed in this entire thing. And honestly, I've never actually thought of content strategy being this way. Like yes, we know that, OTT content is different and, for serials is different, but why is it different and what exactly works for what? This was like honestly an eye opener.
Yeah, because
So
you look at it. I mean, look at it. If you have a
yeah,
phone in your
exactly.
hand when you're binge watching and you want to have chai or you want to water, you pause it and go and get TV. You can't do, na. So
You
your
can't,
regular
yeah,
life is,
certainly.
and you who's watching OTT is you and me. And if you know your mom is watching, she's watching on a telly or wherever she is watching, she has the right to pause and then she'll do because the story is moving so fast. She has to be in track, right? But in Salzburg, it's so slow that if you're doing your cooking, you can hear, you can turn around, look for 2 seconds, and go back and follow the audio. That's the logic of why telly is written like that.
I don't think we would ever have thought of actually viewing the lifestyle of the like person you're writing for and then accommodating that. Like the fact that multitasking during dinner, you made it so audio heavy that they can kind of keep track of the story as well. That is, I think, a fascinating insight that we would never have thought of because in our age, for us, actually most of our content viewing is happening on mobile. It's
Yeah.
anywhere. So that has kind of shifted entirely. So, that's really interesting. We would have
Like
never
a
thought about it
perfect
like that.
perfect example of keeping the consumer in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're adapting, the content is adapting to their lifestyle instead.
You have to, but there's no other way to succeed. I mean, I'm not saying succeed. I will take back that. There's no other way to hope to succeed, or your parameter of success become lesser of not knowing what you're making or who you're making for, so to speak. But no guarantee it will work or not. But you always put your best foot forward.
Okay, sir. So now shifting a little into a new form of content that has been redefining our generation, which is the short form video content. It's all the rage. And according to data, Indian's content industry has at this point it's 70 to 80% of data is consumed is being short form video. So it has revolutionized the way we consume content, and it started way back with Vine. Then we had Musically, we had TikTok, now we have Reels. So, why do you think, or what is actually encouraging the Indian audience to move towards this format?
I'll give you one word answer on this. It's democracy. Like, who are you to tell me what to watch? Tell me that. Who are you to tell me what to watch? You don't give me the cock and bull that I'll show you and you will watch, right? And you have made a star. Who are you to make a star? So what happens is, understand the data from this end. So today we have 200 million user base on short form apps and so on. By 2025 we'll have 650 million user base, right? What is it saying? It's and what is the other part which has revolutionized it? It's Geo coming and saying, boss, internet is free. Earlier, internet was for the elite. Now, internet is for your driver, cook, everybody, or the lowest strata of society. Forget lower strata of society, even penetration into tier 3, 4, 5, 6 towns, right? So today, everybody has a smartphone, a mobile. Now, also because of Geo, the the rollout of smartphones happened by Xiaomi and so on and so forth. The not the very expensive one, under 8,000 version we call it in our part of the world. So that has made it sharper. So what has happened is, so imagine, I'll give you a real life example. Let's say you're a singer, right? uh, Kasturi, you're a singer. You don't live in you're not from Cal, you're from Mahmudabad or one Asansol ke pass one village. You sing. It is how far of a dream for you to participate in Indian Idol or become a singer. Here you have a mobile phone, you self record, you put it, let go viral. That's the thing. And it's also what it does is, it's also become a career option for a lot of young people. So it is actually, India has got talent in a true sense. So you have democratized the whole process of making your own stars, and more importantly, I don't have to be Greek god looking to be a movie star anymore. I can be. That's the story of Nawaz. that's the story of Irfan, so and so forth. So if I cannot believe you are me, then I can never be you, right? It will be too high for me to aspire to you. If you can do it, so can I do, is a logic which this short form app has gone. Obviously tech has enabled in a big way. Today you can edit, you can do shoot, you can do your different tricks on video and so on and so forth without going through a course, and you go into a professional setup. So it just makes it cooler for you to do, and people are doing some really. And if you look at it, I mean, look at May say Meena say uncle who dance, right? So you or that Pakistani lady, मैं हूँ ये आप और ये party हो रही है. That's things like that will come, and then Yashraj Mukhate made it big with the different songs and so on and so forth. So things it's democratized, right? And now how is it another way democratized? Let's say ये मैं हूँ ये आप हो ये हमारी party हो रही है. Now, if it was a T series, then you have to go for licenses, copyright, pay. You think, hey, this is my thing, put it out, you pick it up and make your own versions of it, right? So that's how democratization of content, not only from the demand side, supply side, but also from the demand side, it's happened. So it cannot be one way street. So only because there's both sides of democratization, that's why it's going that fast, and it's going to go faster and faster. And you will see sooner and later, commerce will get added into it.
I'm thinking about what you said about how like democratization, right? Smartphone boom, you were able to like start getting smartphones for under 10K. You're able to have all this access to internet, and so everyone is able to create content. But to my mind, that starts to also then become a problem because you have only so many hours in a day which you are spending online, even if that has increased, right? So you're basically fighting for your consumers' attention, be it on TikTok or be it on Hotstar or be it
Uh,
even on primetime TV.
uh,
So,
uh.
where do we go from here when you have so much content now that everyone can make content? What do you see happening in the content industry just going forward?
When you say what is happening in the content industry in terms of supply side, demand side, or consumer side, or the platform side?
I think I honestly want your thoughts on both ends because like
Okay.
we discussed earlier, you will create content when you know there is an audience, right? But now that there's so much content, you're all vying for attention. So like
So I,
where do we go from here?
what will happen is that the user's journey will become very important. That's the first part. Then the user who's coming here, where is he getting the best kind of recommendation engine, right? Why was TikTok so big? So it's a very interesting challenge that TikTok did with their employees internally. So imagine the three of us. We would sit in the same room with your own devices, and you can scroll for 3 hours, and the same video will not come to each of us. So the recommendation and the algo is that smart, right? Indian apps are still struggling with that, to be honest. It is if TikTok was 8 out of 10, Indian apps tech, not tech, algo and recommendation is 2 out of 10. That's the thing, right? So this is right now the investment period for everybody and for the foreseeable future. And then it'll change, hopefully, someday. And also please remember what all these apps are also trying to do. See, understand this. This you have created content means you have formed a community. If there's no community, there's no content, right? This is the understanding of logic. Why is there no commerce? अगर community है, content है, तो commerce भी डालो. Exactly what Moj has done with Flipkart or TikTok has done with Shopify in the US, right? So you will sooner than later, while watching with the glasses you are wearing, Kasturi, I can click and I can buy it. And without the video stopping, I will do shoppable content without being ad driven, but will be real transaction driven, and content will become more interactive. Yeah, that's my answer. Getting consumers is a question of how much money you have, but to make you stay on the specific app, you only need one thing: consumer love. So I can pay and get a download and come you to the app, but for you to stay on the app, stickiness, so to speak, or engagement will only need consumer love.
So many ideas to actually, think of, and all of them are interlinked. Actually, if you
Yeah,
talk about the platform, the consumers, the creators, they are all dependent on each other. Like there's
of
not one
course.
without the other, right?
Cannot be.
Let's talk about regional content because it's kind of in the same like area. Regional content isn't going to always have pan India appeal, but there is a dedicated group of people who really want to watch it, and there's always been an audience for regional content, but we're beginning to see OTT platforms really sit up, take notice, and then cater to these audiences. And since you're getting a lot more talent also now, what with the democratization of content
Mhm.
and the
Mhm.
treasure trove of talent that we have in India, how
Mhm.
do you think somebody like Disney+Hotstar, how do you think they can bring regional content to like short form content?
So there are two questions, right? So let me answer both separately.
Hmm.
First, we always thought कि regional content तो कोई लोग दिखते हैं पता नहीं. That is the wrong assumption completely. Okay, forget from a TV content or digital content. Let's take the biggest, oldest form movies. By the way, the biggest revenue generator movie in the history of Indian cinema is Bahubali. Okay, so let's be real. That's the first part. Second part, Rajnikant charges more money than the whole Bachchan family put together as a remuneration. Okay, when I say Amitabh Bachchan, Jaya Bachchan, Aishwarya Rai Bachchan, and Abhishek Bachchan put together is lesser than what Rajnikant charges. Okay, so that's the second part. Third part, which is you would have noticed, Pushpa has gone through the roof. I don't know what the numbers are, but it's available in public domain. It's upward of 250 crores for sure in theatrical alone. A Telugu film. Okay, uh, so and um, um I actually don't like calling it regional language. I like calling it native language because you have to understand India first. What is India? India is not one country. India is like Europe. Every state has its own culture, food, liking, taste, clothing, look, color changes. It's a multiple countries make one country. That's the Republic of India, right? Now, understand this from very important reason. If you live in Bengal, right, in Asansol, you're not Bengalis don't know how to speak. I wouldn't say all, most in they struggle with Hindi language to speak and think. But if you go further down to an Asansol or to other smaller parts of Bengal, they read and write and think in their mother tongue. Same you go to Tamil Nadu, same you go to Karnataka, same you go to Kerala, same you go to whichever part of the country, right? So the consumption is always going to happen in your own language. Earlier we were force fitting because there was no option. आपको जो दिखा रहा था वो देखना पड़ रहा था. Now you have the option to watch you want to watch. You look at it from a reading book standpoint, publishing standpoint. Look at the number of native language books that are coming out, right? Not translation versions, so to speak. Original writing versions are coming, right? So that'll happen, and that is again which loops back into the first earlier answer I gave you about democracy. This is democratic. I'm Tamil. I want to or Odia or Bengali, whatever I am, or Punjabi. I want to want to consume content in the language which I understand the best. Why do I understand the best in that language? Because I think in that language. So it makes me easier for you. Let me give you another small example which none of you would have ever noticed, but go back and think about it. When you watch an English movie, right, or an English series, most of the time you switch on the subtitles. You know why? Because you miss out half the time what they're saying. So you quickly go down to you read it, right? Though you think in English, all your life you went to a English medium school or English way of teaching, and then and English when I say in terms of language, and then you went to a college and so on and so forth, and MICA and whatnot. It's your English, your teaching is in English language. But when you watch an English movie, you still put the subtitles on. Why do you do it? Because inherently you are lost not half the time, a lot of time you're lost. कि क्या बोला समझ नहीं आया, तो let me read it. So exactly that. But if you see it in Hindi, okay, have you ever switched on a Hindi subtitle? Never in your life. So because you are thinking in some language. So that's the logic. And you have to go back into basics to understand how human psychology works in that sense.
Now that we see that the regional content has actually had its own boost, that we also see there is a demand for regional content also among Hindi audience, like people who would generally watch Hindi TV shows or series. Now people are also asking for that. So it might be because there was a demand pull that they started putting out regional content, and now it has actually worked in its favor. That's grown its own audience now.
The cross pollination of content has happened beautifully. Not only from a south to north, but a north to south. Forget that. Irani films or other language films from different parts of the world span. Look at this, man. Squid Games, Money Heist. Why would India watch anything of that? Because it's a cross pollination of culture, cross pollination of content, and so on and so forth. So because the world is not one country anymore, it's a global business, so to speak. You have to make content local but global in that sense. So, क्योंकि if you look at most countries in the world, the problems are all same, right? That's why there are only seven stories. So there are only versions of the same story that you make, right? So what I'm trying to say is, it's about cross pollination and also importantly collaborations. You look at it, RRR, the film which is about to release, which got delayed because of the COVID three wave and all that. Or you look at KGF, the part two is coming. I think Sunil Shetty is in the film, if I'm not wrong. Or even that Mammootty film which recently came on a platform with Sunil Shetty playing a character. So it's collaboration across will happen. You look at Bengali cinema. Yashraj is doing did a film with Jisoo with him. This thing. So it'll happen. It'll both things will come together to make it happen. It's collaborating. And to say, look, it's one country, it's not one country, but content from different sides, culture from different sides coming together. It's like fusion food. Today restaurants are where you used to get butter chicken earlier. Now fusion food does better, right? So it's a logic, variety, option, and you can't keep it away from the world because it's democratic. You can decide what you want to watch, what you don't want to watch.
I think a
So
really interesting lesson from what you said, especially like, for example, you mentioned Squid Games. And I think that worked globally. It was so successful because at the end of the day, everyone understands the problems with capitalism. And that is
correct.
really what the Squid Game story is about.
Yeah.
It's about like downtrodden workers, people needing money for like medical work, and then the desperation that people go to acquire money. So I think that cross pollination you're mentioning, we are seeing it happen in real time, especially like as Gen Z people who are now creating content in this like industry. And talking about lessons, we actually have now kind of an advice segment. We'll be bringing up
Yeah.
some student questions later.
Yeah.
But in general, we wanted some advice from you. As students at MICA, we are like a marketing and business school, right? A lot of us will either enter the content creation industry or the content marketing industry. So, what are some key things you think we as business students should keep in mind when we enter this industry?
As people who are just getting into the business, be it from the content side, marketing side, business side, and whichever strategy side, whichever side of the business, right? Three, four things have to be very clear. See, earlier there were different times, but like my times, no, we had more time to dabble, experiment, see this thing, right? When I look at you guys, I feel I envy you guys because you exactly know at 23 what you want to do. You're hosting something. Earlier, I would not. I would put my head down and sit quietly. But I don't know. I thought, hope I don't get caught out. I don't know. It's very different times. I would say, always, always keep learning. That's the first part. So never say you'll know everything because you'll never know everything. I mean, I've gone through that mistake. I've made that mistake and fallen very badly on my face. So always never say you know everything. You have to keep learning. There's no rule book. That's another thing. You have to figure out your own rule book, playbook. There's no guide. There's nothing, right? You have to be plugged into the system 24 into 7 in whatever form of it because it's changing so fast that you will not be able to catch up, right? So you need to know, you have to be abreast of what is happening. You have to be aware of whatever your specialization path is, right, so to speak. um, Focus a lot on market demands. Focus a lot on market demand because the market will, I don't know, when I say market demand doesn't mean what is it asking today. Extrapolate that, use the intelligence, see what it might happen in a near midterms this thing, because if you're talking now then you're done. You have to will be ahead of the curve, so to speak. So that is the important part. um Very, this is the most important line, okay? This is very, very crucial. Understanding of the viewer is important. That is, everybody understand, but understanding of viewership is more important. That's the mantra you should go after. Understand the viewer, awesome, but please understand more in nitty-gritty, in detail, double downing on viewership. And most importantly, out of all this, whatever you do, have fun with it. If you don't have fun, your ideas will never come out. And it's good to make mistakes. Make your mistakes, but don't repeat your mistakes, and go ahead, man. Easy peasy Japanese.
So
बोलिए
diving into the student segment questions now.
जी.
So we have one question which is sort of related to the advice that you gave. We have a question from Yash Giryani. He asked, "What do you think should be done to make OTT attractive for the older generations who mostly consume media through television?"
Thank you, Yash, for the question. Actually, um, that's question which we've been asking ourselves for many, many moons. Um, it is actually not the question anymore. The answer is already cracked. So, so if you look at Disney Plus Hotstar, right, or Sony Live or Z5, all our shows, if you look at a strategy, look at this, right? So when you see a Anupama, I'm talking about from a Disney Plus Hotstar standpoint. If you see अनुपमा आपका टीवी में रात बजे आता है शाम को बट 12 घंटे पहले ना इट कम्स ऑन D+H. So the audience is already moved there, right? The second part, then another instrument, there's a show we have called Dance Plus. Dance Plus this year, first month was only on Disney Plus Hotstar, TV was second. So the audience is moving there sooner than later. So the inverse logic will happen sooner than later. See, but your mom will not watch it on mobile. Your mom will watch on your TV. You will use your smart TV or your mirroring of your app or whatever, whichever way you want to do it. Um, the dabba might change, but the content for them will remain this thing. And with that, what it does is they will also make you drive towards watching an Arya or a more वो Netflix पे Ravina Tandon series. So you people will watch a lot of this. People are
Aryanak,
watching.
or I think that's,
Aryanak, Aryanak,
yeah.
Aryanak, Aryanak. Yeah, Aryanak. Try and watch Aryanak. So that's very family viewing. It's not Mirzapur or it's not Sacred Games in that space. It's a very different space. You can watch it with the full family. Um, so that is happening anyways, because you will sooner than later you will see people will. So remember this: people right now, your digital apps are called catch up TV. Sooner than later, this is my projection. I might be 100% wrong, but I hope I'm not wrong. Sooner than later, it'll be catch up app. TV will become catch up. It'll get inversely swung.
That's very interesting. That makes a lot of sense as well. That the content, it does exist. The back catalogs for a lot of these shows are available. And at the end of the day, if the audience knows I can watch it at any point of time over there, they will gravitate towards that.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
that the way we consume the content will change. We have one more question, and I kind of
yeah,
want
yeah.
to connect it to something you just spoke about. You actually mentioned a competitor's name, Sony Live. And I think as consumers also, we have a lot of issues when you just see the amount of options available. And so here's a question from our batchmate, Viraj Shetty. He asks, what according to you is Disney Plus Hotstar's USP in this cluttered OTT market? Is it sports? Is it the international offerings from entertainment darlings like Marvel? Or is it something else altogether?
So it's not so basically any OTT, forget Disney Plus H or Sony Live or Netflix. Two things that drive consumers, right? Content offering, breadth and depth, and product. And we are very, very good in both. So that's the short answer.
Yeah. So we have, I think, our final segment that we'd like to take you into. And this is a
Uh-huh.
segment called Rapid Fire, where we
Mhm.
give you like at most 15 seconds to answer a question. So we want quick, short answers.
Is it one
And
word answer or one line answers?
a word to a phrase, maybe a line. Like I said, keep it to 15 seconds. Let's keep it quick. So I'm going to ask the first one, and then Kasturi and I will kind of bounce between the questions. And,
Aye, aye.
let's have your answers. Okay.
Go for it.
So,
Bring it
okay.
on.
The first question is a show that you think changed the OTT game.
Scam 1992.
Oh, interesting. Your recommendation on Disney Plus Hotstar.
Arya, Special Ops,
Mhm.
and I really enjoying Loki.
Okay.
Okay. Speaking of shows, what's a book or a real life story that you think should be made into a movie or a web series?
Yeah, there are lots of this. I'm a crazy reader. Um, three books I will recommend. Everybody should read. One book is called Shoe Dog. It's on the autobiography of Phil Knight. Phil Knight is the founder of Nike. It's not autobiography; it's a thriller. You can't keep it down. The other book you should read is called The Choice by this. Okay, by the way, The Choice is you. Everybody who's listening to it should read. Choice is written by a lady called Edith Edgar. She's written only one book, and she wrote the book when she was 90 plus years old. Okay. Uh, the book is about this girl during the Nazi Germany. She's in the concentration camp, and Nazis are out of power, and so on and so forth. When they pick up the dead body, there are 60 or 70 dead bodies over her, and she was 4 or 5. And then she goes on to become one of the biggest ballerina dancers and psychologists. The choice is about, do you live with your past or you look forward? And the third book you should read is called Narconomics. It's about it's how the narcotics business is run, and parallelly driven with how your PNG or a levers run the business, and same. Beautiful book, three books. So three books: Shoe Dog, The Choice, and Narconomics.
And so the final question, if you had to pick any one, movie or web series, choice between the two, what would be your pick?
In what sense? I didn't understand the
If you had
question.
to pick movies or web series, like if you had to pick
To,
either of
to
the two,
make, to watch, to do what?
watch, sir. Your personal.
Yeah, I am a crazy watcher. I watch everything. I watch from Mithun Chakravarti to esocentric Win Winders to Majid Majidi to Squid Games to everything. I like both. Yeah, I like everything. Content is content. Yeah, don't define by saying a series hai, mini series hai, docu hai. But anybody who likes docu, please watch a docu on our app. It's on Tiger Woods, called Tiger. Watch it. It's beautiful. HBO, two-part series. It's blow your mind.
Okay. We have a lot of recommendations, a lot of media recommendations to go through now, I think, after this episode.
Adding that to my watch list also now at this point.
Yeah, my God. I'm already like thinking of all the things I need to go through after this. We've been assigned homework. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. We had a great time answering, like just asking you everything.
Thank you, Pallavi. Thank you, Kasturi. This was a great fun session. Talking to young people always makes you believe that you can do better.
We had a great time, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Media Masters. Stay tuned for the next one.